Good evening, everyone. Finally on board. I'm so sorry for getting on late. Just before we were about to go live, my laptop decided to play up and shut down automatically. And I've been trying to get it back up ever since. Even tried to get on my phone and do it from the phone, but I couldn't remember my password to log into the podcast software. So for the last 10 minutes, I've been swearing at my laptop as much as I swear at bloody politicians. So it can be infuriating, I've got to say. But anyway, all's well that ends well. And here we are on the podcast. Very straightforward podcast tonight. Let me just check my settings and make sure I'm not talking to myself. Very good. That is all working. So, yeah, here we are with my co-host. Here he is. Come here, Junior. Oh, no, he's off to his couch. There he goes. He always knows when I'm starting to get on that couch. He's so good. So a rush thing. So anyway, I've had my coffee. You can calm down a bit now. I've done my swearing at the laptop. My own fault. Not a straightforward episode tonight, or a straightforward live stream tonight. Is we're saving ourselves up. For those who don't know, tomorrow afternoon, 4:00, I'm having an interview discussion with Malcolm Roberts. I'll be testing out everything to make sure that goes smoothly. I think I got too cute by half. When at the end of the show, I always go through my bookmarks on my X platform just to go through the news of the day and the week and all that sort of thing. But it can be difficult to navigate the bookmarks to get the stories in the right order to make it as easy for you guys to follow at home as how I'm trying to present it. This is why I need a producer one day whenever I win Tats Lotto. And what I did is for every story, I put it in a tab and then I put it in order. I thought that was smart. But because this laptop, it's a good laptop, but it's not, the world leading sort of thing. I think I crashed it. There were just too many Google tabs open because there was so much news around the place. So I thought I was being clever. And as it turns out, I wasn't being clever enough. So, anyway. So hope you've all had a great day. Hope you all got a great Easter break. Hope you all reflected on what Easter means. If not, maybe going forward we can. We're living in strange times. So like I said, no policy announcements today like last week where we had our regions policy. I spent today reading through the One Nation policy page. Quite interesting. It's a lot of very similar ideas to what I've put on our policy page for the Conservatives. So obviously I'm preparing for this interview with Senator Roberts tomorrow, which I think will be fascinating. And it'll be fascinating to ask him the differences between their national policy platform and what they've got for Victoria. Because state policy, state issues can be very different from federal ones. And look, we don't know enough about the Victorian One Nation Party, and not through any fault of its own. It just hasn't been on the radar ever. And now all of a sudden it's right on the radar, and they will get, I think, a bunch load of votes in this coming election in November. So on that part, it's going to be interesting. But I also want to ask him a lot about federal issues. So, hopefully he's had the time, and I know he must be a busy man, but it's great of him and the One Nation office to set this interview up. And I hope he gets the time to look at our policy ideas. I think you'll like a lot of them. I'm certainly going to raise it with him tomorrow, and a bunch of other questions. I've been asking you guys that follow me for any questions you might have. So far, you've left me high and dry. If you've got any, you better hurry up and send them through, especially if you're a Victorian. But, we'll have a good discussion. I'm not sure how long he's got. We'll find that out tomorrow. Hopefully he's got a few hours, because usually that's what I take, a few hours to have any. With Jordan Ditloff and Scott Challen, we spent well over a couple of hours on each interview, and I found it really interesting. So, and I think everyone who follows me found it interesting because I got the biggest viewership ever on those two interviews. So we'll see where this leads. It's certainly relevant with the surge in One Nation politics. So with the One Nation party in politics. So took a 4 days off over Easter personally. I think it's a great time to reflect. I said this afternoon on my other live stream that the Thursday before Good Friday, I've just made this a sort of tradition. I always watch the Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's film. I find it a very hard film to watch, and I'm usually pretty good with films and blood and guts and all that sort of thing. But that whipping scene where Christ gets whipped at that pillar, I struggle with that every time I watch it. What he went through for our sins, and you've all got to think there's 7 billion people on this planet. I read Bible passages every day. I get online, I do what I can. I go to church. I should be going to church more often, should be going to confession more often. I believe in Christ. I talk about him, all that sort of thing. I don't push it down people's throats, I don't think. And here I am talking about it. But I'm trying to relate it to the film, obviously. And there's 7 billion of us. It'd be interesting how many billion there've been who've lived on this planet since Christ went through all of that. And he willingly, he walked to that torture, to that unbelievably excruciating death, knowing he didn't have to. He could have walked away. He was in the Gethsemane gardens praying for it to be avoided. He just could have kept on walking. He was the Son of God. He could have called on his angels to come and rescue him. He chose to go to his death. This is why all these, when you get online and you listen to all these debates about who killed Jesus, well, we all did. He went to his death. It wasn't the Jews who killed him. It wasn't the Romans who killed him. We killed him. Every single one of us. Everyone who's ever sinned killed him. And I always feel guilty around this time of the year because I'm a sinner. Well, in different little ways, I sin most days. I sinned on Sunday. I thought church was at 5 o'clock. I should have checked it earlier. I got into watching the footy. And then when I looked up for church times, on Easter Sunday, there was no church mass service at its normal time of 5 o'clock. So I didn't go to church on Easter Sunday of all days. So in a way, that's a bit of a sin. I need to ask forgiveness for it. There's other sins I do. I express my political opinions. When I get on X, I can be pretty brutal. Not so much when I'm live. But, there's no doubt. I sin most days. I think all of us do. Anyone who says they don't, and I've got no doubt there'll be a tiny percentage of us that don't, especially those who devoted themselves to their faith, so they become priests, nuns, servants, laymen, better people than me. But when you think he went through that for all our sins, all of them, yours, mine, the 7 billion people on this planet, all those who went before us, and he took that punishment to absolve us all of our sins. It's actually an amazing story, and you don't even have to, even if you're an atheist, even if you take into the concept of if you can just put in your head, okay, what if this were true, and this guy did this to try and save the rest of us? It's a phenomenal story of sacrifice, of compassion, of forgiveness. While they were crucifying him, shoving nails through his hands and feet, he asked God to forgive the men because they didn't know what they were doing. Who amongst us would have done that? So even if you're an atheist, you should be able to listen to that story and go, God, and look, this is all about faith. So when it's about faith, none of us, me being a Catholic and a Christian, the atheist being atheist, all the radical Islamists, none of us can be 100% sure that we're right because it all comes back to faith. You have faith in it. You can't prove it. You have faith that this is what life is going to be. This is what resonates with you. Okay? So even if you're an atheist, you can't be fully sure that there's no God. So you should look into these things. So I'm not trying to shove this down your throat. I'm going to say investigate it. Investigate the great faiths against each other. I think Christianity comes out way on top. And in that debate within Christianity, I think Catholicism comes out way on top. And I'm not talking about the people, before those come at me, I'm not talking about the people within Catholicism. I'm talking about the teachings of the church, the apostles, how the church was formed, all its dogma, all its um, I don't know, formalities, if that's what you want to call it. The way they conduct the Mass, the Eucharist, the sacraments, all of that. If you study the history, and I've been studying it recently, when I say recently, the last couple of years, and I wish I'd studied it more. As a Catholic, I just used to go to church, barely went to confession. Most of it was to keep my mum happy. I did believe in it, but I now regret I didn't look into it harder in my younger days. I really do. So even if you're an atheist, you should look into this hard and say, okay, is it justifiable for me to be atheist, or is there more to this? So if you're watching this and you are an atheist or a young person trying to find your way, do your research. There's no excuse for not doing research. It's available everywhere. You don't have to go to the library. You don't have to get off your couch. You can look on your phone. You can look on YouTube. You can look through X. You can look through all the social media platforms. So it's all out there these days. So no excuse for you not to look at it. No excuse for me to not look at it. Then make your decision. If you've done that, good on you. If you've done that and you fall in with radical Islam, I can't help you, which is going to be a big part of our episode tonight. And it's quite amazing. I'll start this with Ben Roberts-Smith, and I'll also at the same time start it with the rescue of the two pilots in Iran by the Yanks. The Americans just sacrificed, different estimates, $200 to $300 million worth of military equipment. They willingly put hundreds of their own military lives at risk to save those two men. They backed those pilots 1,000%. They went in, they got them, they put their own lives at risk. Their strategy, when you listen to it, is amazing. It was like Venezuela again. And it doesn't matter what you think of Trump. But what you can be sure of is if you're in the US military, Trump and Hesketh and the current administration have your back. They will go to war to bring you home. You compare that to what's happened to Ben Roberts-Smith today. Now, if he's killed innocents, should he go through the court of law, the investigate? Well, he should have gone through that years ago. He should have had his name cleared years ago. This should have been brought about years ago if they were going to charge him. But you can just see the media and the typical leftist, Marxist arseholes clamoring for this guy to be found guilty. They're not even waiting for the trial. In their minds, he's already guilty. And I'll tell you now, it won't matter what happens in the trial. If he's found innocent, he'll carry the stigma of this for the rest of his life. And you watch these bastards who are wanting him to be found guilty, because he must be going through enormous stress right now. He got arrested today in front of his two young daughters. This is a man that's gone and fought for this country, bled for this country, saved his fellow servicemen for this country. And who are we to judge our fighting men and women? Now, I'm going to go through a couple of things on X that I had lined up later on. And I think it's pretty powerful. If you read through the arguments that were put against Ben Roberts-Smith and what led up to it, you can understand if he snapped, you can understand why he snapped. How many other servicemen have snapped in warfare? We send them over there. There's no guarantee that no servicemen will not snap. They might run away from battle. They might kill one of their own. They might desert. They might shoot an innocent by mistake or even intentionally. But we send them into these theaters of war where they see the most horrific of things. Then they've got to come home and they've got to face a jury and a judge and a prosecutor that have probably never fought for this country. I hope he does get a jury that there are some veterans on it that understand what he went through. If we haven't served for our country, I haven't. I wanted to. Some of my relatives have. My dad did. Some of my brothers did. I wanted to. I'm blind in one eye, so I just could not get in. I respect our veterans massively, massively, and we have let them down over the years in a big way. And I don't see how this trial is going to help. And if they get Ben Roberts-Smith guilty, a guilty charge confirmed, and he goes to jail, they'll come for more. Because we've got bloody woke Marxist leftist pricks in our institutions. I've got no doubt we've got them in the AFP. I've got no doubt we've got them in our justice system. And they would love nothing more than to attack the last bastion of male testosterone, of the warrior men and women that go to defend this country. Should our military face tribunals if they do commit a crime? Yes, they do. It should, but it should be done quickly. And it should be done without the glare of the media all over it. This Broden report is an absolute disgrace. And every politician behind it is a shameful prick. Shameful. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was the Morrison government that instigated this. And if I remember correctly, I was pissed off with Morrison when he brought it about. And it was all politics. It had nothing to do with Morrison wanting to see justice done. Morrison, as all the politicians do, this was all about political gain for him going into elections, if I recall it properly. Could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll put my hand up. But if you read the story behind it, why would young men go to fight for this country? You know, I want the next generation of young men to love that flag the way I love that flag. I'm not too sure they will. And look, we're going to have Ben on, who's in the next week. I'm trying to get Dr. Amir on. And patriotism is a funny word. A lot of people bandy it around. But you can't be more of a patriot than if you go and fight for this country. You can't be more of a patriot if you die for this country or wounded for this country. Or you can't be more of a patriot than if you've gone to serve war and you've lost mates in the service of this country. We should listen to these guys. We should understand what they've gone through, what we sent them to do, what our governments and politicians sent them to do. If Ben Roberts-Smith should face a court of law, why doesn't every frickin' politician that was in government, every premier, every prime minister, every health minister that took the draconian actions throughout COVID also face consequences for their actions? How many people died under their watch that didn't have to die? How many people took their lives that wouldn't have taken their lives otherwise? How many businesses did they destroy? How many lives did they destroy? How many people suffered some sort of depression from those years and still suffer it? Why is there no accountability for them? What about the bastards who have brought in this mass immigration, like mass? And I'm not a person against immigration. I am totally opposed to this flood of immigration that's coming to our country. That's causing all sorts of social issues, social cohesion issues, cost of living issues, housing issues, and it's destroying our youth's belief in that bloody flag, in the belief in this country and what it can provide them. I think it's shameful what they've done. They should be facing a court of law. They should be getting charged with treason. When they put other countries' interest ahead of our own interest, like they've done with the current fuel crisis. If you don't believe me, watch Andrew Bolt had an episode on a person, I think his name's Andrew Blood, I could be wrong. Listen to him, what his company spent $40 million trying to mount an argument to be able to dig up Victorian coal and turn it into gas and fuel. We have got hundreds of years of coal under our feet, coal reserves, but we can't dig it up. He's gone to New Zealand and he's working there with it. So we lost it, New Zealand profited from it. Why doesn't every politician involved in that process that has denied this country access to fuel and gas face consequences? They've done far more damage than Ben Roberts could ever hope to do to the future of this country, the future generations of our youth, to the very men and women that our politicians may call up one day to fight for this country. that I'm at the moment don't think they would. And I can't blame them. I think Trump is fighting a war of civilization at the moment. And it's a war in the last 50 to 100 years that Australians would have gone and fought shoulder to shoulder with our American friends. But not now. And I find it a great pity. And before everyone bags me, send your own son or daughter. One, I don't have sons or daughters. And yeah, it's not an easy thing for anybody to say, to send someone over there. But for a century, since the Boer War, parents have been sending their sons and daughters off to war. And we're not talking about conscription here. Everybody in our armed forces has signed up. They knew the risk when they were going in. I'm not saying you should take that risk for granted. You should be doing what Trump does. If you fight for Trump, you know he's got your back. He'll give everything. Just look what's going on. He'll give you everything to win that fight. This is what a real leader does. And if you're caught in enemy lines, he'll do everything to bring you back. He just spent $300 million and put hundreds of lives. I don't know how many it was. I wouldn't quite say. At risk to get those two men back. Every serviceman now will believe in Trump. And yet you've got these woke right cowards saying Trump should be impeached, or the 25th Amendment should be coming in, or Tucker Carlson saying he's going to drop a nuclear bomb. Trump has talked at length about his hatred for nuclear weapons. He's talked at length about how they had to address Iran not getting a nuclear weapon. Trump's hate nuclear weapons. He's said it time and time again. Yet there's arseholes in there while these guys are putting their lives on the line who are undermining him. And Australia is not there in the fight. And I understand why we're not. I do. I regret it because I think there's going to be real consequences with Trump with us not supporting him. Forget the subs. We're not getting those nuclear subs. And that's something not only do we need nuclear subs, we need nuclear armed subs with nuclear weapons. We need a deterrent. We need to be rebuilding our armed forces. People turn around and say we don't need the Americans. Okay, what are we going to defend the country with? The cadets? What have we got? If we don't have the Yanks, China would wipe out our Air Force. And we're not watching around. They would wipe out our Air Force, our Navy, and large chunks of our army within days. Let's not kid ourselves. We are not ready. A continent the size of Australia needs a well-equipped, high-tech army of, I would say, 500,000 to be able to defend it. Maybe more. I'm not a military expert, but we would need nuclear deterrence. You don't get nuclear deterrence overnight. That's going to take you 20, 30 years to put in place. I mean, look at the submarine deal. We're not going to get that overnight, even if it goes through. We won't get them delivered till, I think it was 2030, and that's the first sub. So if we don't have the Yanks, we are so exposed. We are up the shit creek without a paddle. And if we get invaded or someone threatens us, what, are we going to go running to the Yanks? What are the Yanks going to say? Well, where were you when we needed you? Now, I think that's a silly observation from the Yanks. But the Yanks, we've been side to side with the Yanks every time except this time. And I hope the Americans don't hold it against us because we've got a fucking idiot in charge of our government at the moment. But we could have supported the Americans in some small way, just like the Gulf nations are doing, whether that was to have special forces. And the special forces are trained for this shit. They want to go into this shit. This is what they dedicate their lives on doing. But who would do it today after how they're treating Ben Roberts-Smith? You'd have doubts in the back of your mind about going into a theatre of war to come back and receive this shit that Ben Roberts-Smith and others are going through. Look at Charlton Heston, what he had to go through. They lied about him. ABC edited video to try and throw that man under the bus. This is how we treat our veterans. Little wonder suicide rates within the veteran community is so high. It's a bloody disgrace. Absolute disgrace. But at the same time, and this is the hard balancing act for people like me, at the same time, there is what I would think and people can argue with me all they like. I'll put my reasons out there tonight of a legitimate war for a change that needs to be fought. And we're not in it. And as a person who's got a connection to World War II, when the Yanks came and saved us from Japan, and if it wasn't for the Yanks, Japan would have invaded Australia. Of that, I have no doubt. Just from the stories I heard from my dad and his mates, all this sort of thing, they knew how invaluable the Americans were. Dad talked about it nonstop. Dad was in New Guinea when they were fighting the Japs. He said every time he had the utmost admiration for the Yanks. If you don't know about I think it's the Battle of the Leyte Gulf. I think not Leyte Gulf. What is it? Coral Sea, the Battle of Coral Sea, I think it is, where the Yanks defeated the Japanese Navy. If the Japanese Navy win that, Australia was wide open for invasion. And you reckon they wouldn't have, worst case, closed off the sea lanes? Of course they would have. America launched its battle back against Japan from Australia. It would have been so much harder for the Yanks to defeat Japan without Australia as a land base, just like in Europe, they had the land base in the UK. So we owe, and we've paid that debt with the Americans, but we should have done this one too. Now, if we want sovereignty, that's okay. Tell me how we're going to get that army I talked about to defend this continent. If we want independence from America, fair enough. I can live with that. But tell me how we're going to do that. How we're going to get there. How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? When can we get it in place by? When can we have that army of 500,000 with the high tech and the nuclear deterrence? When can we have the nuclear armed subs with nuclear weapons? Because that's what we need. And if we don't have it, when can we have not 40 advanced fighter jets? When can we have 400 of them? Because that's what we need. We are the only country that has a continent to itself. We need an amazing military. We need a military like the IDF. But we need a better one than the IDF because we've got a much larger area to defend. I mean, do people not get this? It's all right to say, oh, no, it's not our fight, it's not it. Okay, that's fair enough. What do we do then? What do we do when we're threatened? Run to the Yanks? What other nation can help us out in defending ourselves other than the Yanks? I'm not saying you have to love the Yanks. There's a lot about America I don't like. But it is the only country that we've built a relationship with that could help defend us. And it would be in their interest to defend us because, again, we're a big base. Forget looking at Australia as a continent. Look at it as a military base and how important it is in the Pacific. That's not important to Europe. That's not important to NATO. It is important, I think, to America and its interests. So our interests alone make us work together. But we share a Western culture. We share the same faith, the same language, the same love of sport, the same love of democracy, the same love of capitalism. And yes, you can love capitalism. It's all right to want things. It's all right to want a good wage. It's all right to want to make money. I was listening to Tucker Carlson episode today saying how you can't be Christian and capitalistic. Of course you can be. Give me capitalism over socialism, which just makes everyone poor. Christ used to help the poor. He wanted to solve the problems of the poor. If we actually had a good approach to capitalism, we could do that. If we didn't shut down every industry in Australia, we could have full employment. Capitalism delivers that. Socialism destroys it. Capitalism brings people up. Socialism oppresses them. Don't give me this shit that socialism is more aligned with Christian values. It's more aligned with oppression and keeping people down. That's more aligned with Satanism. Capitalism gives people hope for a better day, a better tomorrow. What was the resurrection that we just celebrated all about? It was a hope for a better day, a better life. That's the battle of civilization going on in Iran right now, and we're not in it. So for me as a Christian, it comes down a little bit to this, and I'll get to sharing my Twitter articles after this. As a Christian, and I'll give you examples of this again in a minute, can you turn a blind eye, whether it's in Nigeria, Iran, or wherever. Forget as an Australian for a minute. As a Christian, can you turn a blind eye to the treatment of your fellow human beings, innocent fellow human beings, by oppressive regimes and do nothing about it? In Iran, 2 months ago, they slaughtered 40,000 of their citizens, but there's a whole lot more behind that, and there's been more since that have been executed. Young kids, kids with sporting careers, kids with their lives ahead of them. Gen Z, have a look. They're losing their lives because they want liberty over in Iran. Young Nigerians are losing their lives simply because they're Christian. It's all right to say you want to be isolationist, but you can't put your head in the sand. It's going to come and bite you in the ass eventually. It is biting us in the ass now. Through mass immigration, we have got a fifth column in this country that would celebrate its decline tomorrow. They would celebrate people tearing down this country tomorrow. There are people in our country that would like to see a bunch of Australians killed. There's people in this country that would like to see our civilization and society torn apart. There's people in this country that would celebrate our heritage being destroyed. So there's people in this country that would love to see this dog slaughtered because he's living inside. Now, is that all? I'm talking about obviously the Islamic community, the radical ones. Are there good Muslims? Yes, there are. But they stay quiet when the radical ones speak up, don't they? So we have a problem in this country now, inside our own borders. And Trump he's fighting the head of the snake. And we should be all cheering him on that he's victorious, even if we've got nothing to do with it. The worst thing we've got is high fuel prices. We're talking a battle for the future of civilizations here. I'm not too sure how many Australians understand that. But I think I do. I've been around long enough to talk to all sorts of different people of all different faiths. And I try to love all my brothers and sisters of God's creations, whether they're Islamic, Jewish, Christian, atheist, whatever. Can we say that about the Islamic faith, the radical Islamic faith? Not too sure. And I would love one of them to come on here and talk to me about it. But anyway, enough chatter. Last point, I don't think we can turn a blind eye. And I'm about to demonstrate to you, hopefully, why, if this works. We will soon find out. This is where I've had troubles before. So I had all these tabs shared up. I'll just have to work through them as best I can. I'm sorry. There's my ugly face on that. Sorry, we'll get out of there as quick as we can. Bookmarks. Let's hope this works. I'll scroll down and then come back up. Okay. There's going to be a few. I'll read them out as we go. This is an Iranian and the rescue missions today. I think this is a very appropriate post. As an Iranian watching this rescue mission unfold, I was praying the American pilot would make it out alive, not just for him, but so the Islamic Republic could not use him as a bargaining chip or claim some twisted victory. At the same time, I felt a deep envy. Your government sent elite special forces, $1 million aircraft, and moved heaven and earth to bring one American home. No hesitation, no excuses. In Iran, the regime uses human shields and recruited child soldiers to clear minefields during the Iran-Iraq war. That's a fact. You can read up on that. They treat their own people like disposable tools. They are now recruiting child soldiers as we speak. The Islamic Republic has zero regard for human life. That's the brutal difference. One side risks everything to save their own. The other sacrifices their own to stay in power. This hits hard when you lived under both realities. That is so powerful. And compare that to the way we're treating our veterans. You know, this is an Iranian woman who's, like she said, she's lived under both realities. And in one society, we cherish life. In other ones, they just treat it like the cheap crap they consider it to be. They don't have any regard for human life, children's lives. That thing about recruiting child soldiers to clear minefields during the Iran and Iraq war, look it up, read about it. Actually happened. God knows how many kids like this young one lost their lives in that. I'll come back to him in a minute. Here's another example of this is the battle of civilizations that we're talking about. This is what Trump's fighting against.
شايف نشوف لك فرد ولد شاب حلو عيونه شعره شايف نشوف لك فرد ولد شاب حلو عيونه شعره تستانس الولد الحلو افضل نظره من حتى البنيه حلوه شايف نشوف لك فرد ولد شاب حلو عيونه شعره تستانس الولد الحلو افضل نظره من حتى البنيه حلوه.
And they accuse Trump. That's how crazy the left is. They keep bringing up, Trump about pedophilia because the Epstein files. Did you see what that guy just said? Shia Muslim militia leader. Unbelievable. This is Trump today having a crack about Australia. And here again. So before I show you this one, have a look at this one. Now, heads up, this is pretty horrific. These are the victims of the protest 2 months ago. This is radical Islam. This is the Iranian regime if you protest against them. Young people, all of them. This is their future, and they've just eliminated it. Look at their faces. Now, there's those in the West who'll say, it's not our problem. There are times humanity calls upon you to do something. In World War II, we were called upon to do something, not about just the Jewish lives that were being slaughtered in Europe, but there was plenty of others that were being slaughtered as well. Same regime that just slaughtered their own youth. Now look what they're doing.
فردا در اطراف نیروگاه‌های برق کشور زنجیره انسانی جوانان تشکیل می شود. علیرضا رحیمی فردا در اطراف نیروگاه‌های برق کشور زنجیره انسانی جوانان تشکیل می شود. علیرضا رحیمی دبیر شورای عالی جوانان و نوجوانان کشور در پی پیشنهاد جوانان خلاق و فعالان گروه‌های مردمی از جوانان و چهره‌های فرهنگی، هنری و ورزشی دعوت کرد برای تشکیل زنجیره انسانی در اطراف نیروگاه‌های برق کشور در ساعت 14 حضور پیدا کند.
من از همه جوانان، ورزشکاران، هنرمندان، بچه‌های دانشجو و دانشگاهی و اساتیدمون دعوت میکنم فردا سه‌شنبه ساعت 2 ظهر دور نیروگاه‌هایی که داشته و سرمایه ملی ما هستند بدون توجه به هر سلیقه و دیدگاه سیاسی مال آینده ایران و مال جوانان ایرانی هستند جمع بشن.
فردا
They're asking for their young ones who they slaughtered 2 months ago to now put their own lives together as human shields. This is the Islamic regime. It's now, like this lady saying, the Islamic regime is now openly calling on its own civilians, especially youth and children, to form human shields around power plants. Sound familiar? Sounds like what Hamas did in Gaza. They're planning to line up kids, students, athletes, and young people right in front of critical infrastructure, turning innocent lives into a desperate human barricade. This is a regime so cornered, so willing to sacrifice its own people, that it's broadcasting its plan to use human shields in real time, right before the world's eyes. Where is the global outrage? Where are the human rights organization? Where is the UN when children are being recruited as living shields in a war? This is barbaric. This is evil. And she's wrong. There's 2 examples. Here's another one.
مامانا باباها دست بچه ها رو بگیرید بیایید تو خیابون. میخوای بچت مرد بشه بذار حس کنه یک قهرمانه آمده وسط میدان، میونداری داره میکنه، میدونداری میکنه. مامانا، باباها، بچه‌ها رو بفرستید این شبا ایست و بازرسی، بچه‌ها مرد میشن. مامانا، مامانا، باباها، دست بچه‌ها رو بگیرید بیاید تو خیابون. میخوای بچت مرد بشه؟ بذار حس کنه یک قهرمانه آمده وسط میدان، میونداری داره میکنه، میدونداری میکنه. مامانا، باباها، بچه‌ها رو بفرستید این شبا ایست و بازرسی، بچه‌ها مرد میشن. مامانا، بابا.
These children won't turn into men, they'll turn into body bags. And when people here talk about sending your sons and daughters, in Western society, grown adults join the Defence Forces. They do it of their own volition. Here, this guy's he's encouraging, with the smile on his face, for parents to take their kids into places where they potentially will be killed by Israeli and American rockets. What sort of regime does that? But then again, listen to Sam Bamford here, who fought in Afghanistan, saw it first place, and that is the wrong one. So that was another good point. I want you to listen to this. Why would a young man fight here? Compared to that fanaticism to this. This is Drew. I had my differences with Drew, but this is about Ben Roberts-Smith. This is the part to the Ben Roberts-Smith story that makes my blood boil. On the night of August 29, 2012, a Taliban sleeper agent in the Afghan National Army massacred 3 Australian soldiers in cold blood as they prepared to sleep on their own base. Their names, and we should always remember them, were Private Robert Pote, Sapper James Martin, and Lance Corporal Rick Milicevic. The rogue Afghan soldier was named Hekmatullah. It was the 4th insider or green on blue attack by Taliban sleeper agents in the Afghan National Army against Australian soldiers in 15 months. Now, they did this to the American soldiers, UK soldiers, embedded themselves within their ranks and then murdered them. Out of the 41 Australians who died in Afghanistan, 7 died by way of these insider attacks which technically constitute the war crime of perfidy. Never heard of it, but anyway, I'll take his word. Hekmatullah's attack was a war crime under Article 37 of Additional Protocol 1977 to the Geneva Conventions, which prohibits perfidy as an act of war. By enlisting in the Afghan National Army and wearing its uniform, Hekmatullah presented himself as a co-belligerent fighting alongside Australian forces, not against them. He invited the confidence of Australian soldiers so as to lead them to believe that they were entitled to protection under international law, and then betrayed that confidence to massacre them as they prepared to sleep. Ben Roberts-Smith was one of the first on the base after the attack. He was ordered to find and apprehend Hekmatullah in order to bring him to justice. Acting on intelligence, Roberts-Smith and his men were led to the village of Darwan, where Roberts-Smith is then alleged to have committed a war crime, supposedly kicking a farmer named Ali Jan off a cliff and ordering his execution. Roberts-Smith has always maintained that Ali Jan was a Taliban spotter in a village that was a Taliban stronghold. It is a matter of historical fact that there was confirmed armed Taliban presence in the village of Darwan the day of the raid. Robert Poet's father, Hugh, defended Ben Roberts-Smith and his actions. These citizens in the village could well have been a civilian one day and pulling the trigger the next. That's the way the Taliban operated. This perspective should have been included to provide some balance and context. The Taliban fought by blending into the civilian population. They pushed sleeper agents into the Afghan National Army and murdered our soldiers in moments of vulnerability. Where is Hekmatullah today? This is disgraceful. He lives in Afghanistan as a free man, feted as a hero by the Taliban. They don't give a F about international law or human rights or war crimes. They openly boast about the way they slaughtered our soldiers through acts of betrayal and perfidy. I'm going to have to, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So my proposal is this. Australia can put Ben Roberts-Smith on trial when the Taliban hand over Hekmatullah, preferably dead, his head on a silver platter. Until that time, free Ben Roberts-Smith. Now, if that is exactly the way it's put, and sometimes I think Drew embellishes a bit, but I don't think he has none of this. I remember those attacks. And if that bastard did that, in World War II, he would have been shot on the spot by a firing squad. Look up Germans in the Battle of the Bulge dressed up as American soldiers and infiltrated American troops. When they got caught, they got shot on the spot. That bastard should have been shot on the spot. Ben Roberts, if that story is true, Ben Roberts should not be on trial. Ben Roberts Smith. In the meantime, while Ben Roberts Smith is sitting in a jail cell, how's this prick? Aussies are furious after learning nearly 50,000 immigrants have received government assistance to buy homes since mid-2023 in the housing crisis. How is this not treason? Now, it is from the notices, so there could be more to it, but 50,000 is an awful lot. If they aren't Australian citizens, if they're immigrants and have gained their citizenships, fair enough. If they're not full citizens, they, in my book, should have no access to any of these schemes. This should be going to Australian citizens first and foremost. But Ben Roberts sits in a jail cell, and this muppet, who is destroying our social cohesion, has got this stupid grin on his face. Who do you back more, this bastard or Ben Roberts Smith? Talking of bastards, Laura Loomer's an interesting person. Sometimes I agree with her. Sometimes I think she's just over the top. But she produced those 2 videos. So, again, bear with me. This is Tucker Carlson. This is similar to, I don't know what to call them. They're called woke right by some. Are they on the right? Are they on the left? To me, this guy's just a shill for these Islamic nations that Trump is trying to fight, and the same Islamic arseholes that just murdered those Australian troops, and now Ben Roberts is going potentially to jail for life. This is Tucker Carlson, not long ago, 20 years back in 2006. This is what he thought about Islam.
Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys. But I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
And the way they treat women, I agree with you. Their culture is, but you're in their homeland, and you're over there as an American who they hate, and they want nothing more than the Americans off of their soil. So they're not going to play games.
They can just shut the fuck up and obey, is my view.
How could you salvage Iraq at this point?
I don't, it's beyond our control. I mean, if somehow the Iraqis decided to behave like human beings or something. He'd need to say, look, I'm a bigot, okay? I'm a bigot. I don't like Islamic extremists. Like, if you are really heavily into Islam, I'm sorry, I don't care for you that much. And I don't care what that sounds like. You can call me a racist. You can call me whatever the fuck you want.
And at this juncture, you could say that and not catch a lot of shit for it.
You certainly could. I'd vote for you if you said that. White men have, they've contributed some, I would say, like creating civilization and stuff. I think they've done a pretty, I don't know, whatever.
Obama would kick your ass playing basketball.
Yeah, of course he would. Play basketball, come on.
He's black, say it. He's a real brother. Hey, do you think
I don't know how black he is. How is he black, for one thing? He has one white parent, one black parent.
Well,
so that makes him, why isn't he white? There's some really good, immigrants. I just think it's, people who come to this country ought to have something to offer. Be hot, be really smart. You know what I mean?
That was Tucker Carlson not that long ago. You don't, personally, unless you've got really crappy views, you don't usually change your views in 20 years. But now, this is Tucker Carlson just today. Have a listen.
Who do you think you are? You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning?
Didn't he say the F word?
You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran.
How many times has Tucker Carlson mocked the Jewish faith? How many times has he mocked people of Christian faith, of Protestant Christians, evangelists? How many times have prominent Muslims mocked the Jewish faith and the Christian faith? Every day. And this guy's got fake outrage going all of a sudden in total contradiction to what he said 20 years ago.
Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, No decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology.
This bastard mocks Jewish people every day. Every day.
Presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself. And we should never mock that, because at its core is the acknowledgement that we are not in charge of the universe. We did not build it. We won't be here at the end of it. We can destroy life. We cannot create it because we are not God.
Does the Islamic faith destroy life of their own people? We just showed you examples of where they slaughtered their own people, of where they send their own kids to wars, where they're getting their own children, youth, to go and act as human shields. He never calls that out. He never talks about the Nigerian Christians that are being slaughtered every day by Islamic people. So what gives them that right, Tucker?
The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible, which is you are not God. And only if you think you are.
That you are not God. Stupid, in it. Okay, what's the different core messages of the Christian Bible compared to the Quran? Put those side by side. I think you get a pretty major difference.
Or do you talk this way? But it's not just mockery of Islam. And no president should mock Islam. That's not your job. This is not a theocracy. We don't go to war with other theocracies to find out which theocracy is more effective.
What were the Crusades about, Tucker? Don't forget, the Crusades came about because the Islamic Empire invaded Europe and tried to conquer Christian Europe. There's been wars of theocracy going on since Cain killed Abel. So Tucker's just an idiot.
We are not a theocracy, and God willing, we never will be, because theocracies corrupt the religion. No, this is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of Christianity.
How do you get from that? Seriously, how do you get from him going about Allah, which was a throwaway line, to him mocking Christianity? He never said anything like it. Tucker's an idiot. He's a retard. If you're following Tucker Carlson, go and have a big Vex, have a drink, do something, and then have a look in the mirror. Seriously, this guy is unhinged.
To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning
Trump's... Sorry, I find it amusing. Trump always uses the F word some spring. Today, he called the Iranian regime bullshit artists 3 times. And he's right. I like the fact that he actually uses our language and not the language of the elites. And Tucker just used it before in that other interview.
The murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah?
Has anyone, by the way, I'll get back to this idea about civilians. Has anyone ever heard Carlson speak out against the Muslims in Nigeria who are slaughtering Christians? Not a word. So don't talk. He can't talk to anybody about protesting things. Trump wasn't talking about Iranian civilians. He was talking about the regime. They are a major difference. Iranian civilians want Trump and Israel to keep bombing the crap out of the Iranian regime so they can get their independence from them. So Carlson doesn't understand the bloody difference. He's a moron. And that's not what Trump was talking about it in his press conference today, which Carlson obviously, either he ignored or he didn't listen to. Trump was talking about the Iranian people wanting the bombing to continue. And whenever they finish doing it, hopefully they'll rise. But that's up to the Iranian people. Trump's giving him a chance for liberty. And in any war of liberty, there's going to be casualties. That's just the fact. You can't avoid it.
Without explaining any of it, you are mocking me and every other Christian because we're Christians.
Not mocking me. I'm a Christian. Feel free to mock Carlson and Candace and all those idiots. He's not mocking me.
We can't support that. That is...
I can. I can support Trump every day of the week, twice on Sundays. You don't have to. You do not have to. But we're not in this war. Trump is. Trump's in the fight. He's the first political leader since Margaret Thatcher who's not taking any shit and is taking the war where it should go. George Bush did not take the war where it should go. He was advised by the Israelis when he went into Iraq, you've got the wrong country with an I. It's the other country that starts with an I. They told him he should have gone for Iran. Cut off the head of the snake. That's how you beat radical Islam. And that's what Trump's trying to achieve, despite idiots like this one.
Evil. That is an intentional desecration of beauty and truth, which is the definition.
What the hell's that? I mean, he tries to be all theological. He's such an idiot. That's the definition. What beauty and truth? Carlson wouldn't know beauty if it bit him on the ass. And number two, the amount of things he's got wrong in the last 6 months, he can't be talking to anybody about the truth. He's misled so many millions of people through his podcast about shit that's just historically wrong. He thought, he came out on a podcast and said America declared war on Germany when they invaded Poland. The guy's a moron. He's been wrong so many times, but he talks about truth.
Of evil.
I can't stand him. And I used to be one of his biggest fans. So I want to finish off with something really nice. And I also want to finish off with Sam Bamford. So just bear with me. I think this is a really important one. Let's see if I can get him up. I think he's on here somewhere. One Nation, all that. No, that's not it. I hope I've saved him. Because Sam was very strong this afternoon. Oh! By the way, you know that Iranian regime, the radical Islamists that call their own thing? This bastard. Now, I've heard him get up. He's the most arrogant, prick, sarcastic, sneering bastard. And there he is out having Arabic fascist group with ties to Iranian regime courts labor figures. Another one. So you've got Burke, and now you've got this guy. This guy's in charge of the Federal Ministry for Education. So Jay Sinclair, total arsehole. Another one in the ALP that's courting radical Islam. Unbelievable. So you got Burke with the ISIS brides, and then you got these pricks. And there's another one here when I can find him. I really want to find this Sam Bamford one. Sorry, guys, bear with me for a little bit. This is what I'm trying to do before to get him into tabs. The computer crashed on me. So I'm doing a bit of business stuff in here, so that's why I don't have it on that. Here's another little one. Let's show you. This is how Hamas, radical Islam, treats their own citizens. This is where I think getting food. Massive poverty. They put them in the fashion. No doubt they'll kill them, but they're going to put them not because they're hungry and they pick food. This is how they treat their own. Mask covered, total cowards, and yet Ben Roberts-Smith is getting charged for war crime. Where's justice for these bastards? This is what Trump's fighting. Should we as a country be turning a blind eye to it? Or should we, and I'm not saying put troops on the ground, but should we be supporting the Yanks in their efforts? I would argue, yes, we should. Here's something. I'll see if I can find. Yeah. I want to tell you what I'll do. This one's beautiful. I want to really finish with this one. God. Let's go more. Bookmarks. I hope I've saved the Sam Bamford one because I think it is worth a listen. It's not it. Something different. Okay. Tell you what I can do. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Hopefully Sam sees this. I just want you to hear from a veteran about this Ben Roberts stuff. I know what to do here to get him up. Where are you, Sam? Oh, don't tell me I'll scroll past you again. That's not the one he's talking about. I want to find the one they sent us. Here we go. This one. Listen to Sam. I support every word of this.
Get to send Australia's best. Okay, so Ben Roberts-Smith just got arrested for alleged war crimes, and here's my thoughts. The government doesn't get to send Australia's best, most courageous men within our society to go fight in a foreign conflict and then judge us when we get home for what happened over there. The government doesn't get to send us into a war zone where the enemy blend in with the general population and go unseen. You don't get to send us into a war zone where they use IEDs and women and children as human shields. You don't get to send us into a war zone where they strap 13 kilos worth of explosives to 14-year-old boys and blow them sky fucking high. That happened on my trip. You don't get to send us into a war zone on the 29th of August where they get Taliban soldiers to infiltrate the Afghan National Army, which partnered with the Australian Defence Force over there, then turn around and shoot my mates. Killed 3 in one night. You don't get to send us into that type of war zone and then judge us for what happened over there when we get home. And guess who was the first respondent on the 29th of August? That's right, Ben Roberts-Smith and his team were the first one to fly in and make the scene safe. You don't get the right to spend $300 million over the past decade to send the AFP into Afghanistan to go on a witch hunt. You know, the AFP and our government have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to Afghan nationals over in Afghanistan to write witness statements against Ben Roberts-Smith. Did you know that? Do you know that's where your taxpayer dollars are going? Do you not think that an Afghan national over there who is poor as hell would take the money and just write whatever they want, write whatever they're told to? And you know the one thing with all of this Australia-hating culture has allowed to fester over the past decade. You can't tell me that this isn't all coordinated with the attack on young men in our society, telling them they're useless, pumping our kids full of hormones and destroying the next generation, trying to tell us that the land we're on is stolen, and now going after our military, going after the toughest, most courageous alpha males within our society. This is the Australia-hating culture that everyone is talking about. Let me tell you right now, if you want to sit there and judge us, if you want to sit there and say we should have done X, Y, and Z, go fucking spend a day fighting in a war. Go fucking spend a day fighting against an enemy which uses women and children as human shields. Go fucking fight a day in a war where they get 13-year-old boys and strap 15 kilos worth of explosives to them, blow that little fucker sky high. Go fight a day in that. What's your thoughts? Okay, so...
My thoughts, Sam, I agree with every fucking word you just said. Every word. Every Australian should listen to that. What he said about that money they spent to get people to sign, if that's true, the people who did that, they should be the ones on charges. They should be the ones going to court. They should be the ones on trial. You've only got to listen to the passion in Sam's voice. I don't agree with everything Sam says. No, we know Sam wouldn't agree with everything I say. But what I do respect and recognize is his service. And I don't think, as he says there, I've never had the opportunity to serve for my country. In many ways, I wish I did. I respect and admire everyone who does, and I don't think we do enough for them when they come back. And this is not sending, he's dead right. It is not sending the right message to our young people to pursue Ben Roberts-Smith in this way. If what Drew Pavlo had said about that incident, where and what Sam has talked about, where those 3 Australian soldiers got slaughtered by an embedded spy, you can't judge people for their actions after that. No, that would make you snap. That would make you snap. You would want to kill someone. You would want revenge. And when you're in that moment, sometimes bad things happen. Should we excuse it? No, we shouldn't. But war is a thing that you can't control it. It's not like real life. You don't go through these things. Some would argue in Melbourne, maybe we do. You don't go through these things. You don't see these things in a normal life. You can't have a normal charge and police and all that. Even today, they said, well, they can't go to Afghanistan to advance the scene or the crime scene or talk to witnesses or that. So how the hell can they charge the poor bastard? Why would people go and fight for that flag? I'm totally with Sam. I'd love to interview Sam one day. There's certain things I don't agree with him on. But that's fine. That's what Sam went and fought for. Sam and like he called them, his mates. This is where Australian mateship came from military service. In Gallipoli, mateship was born. Australian mateship was born through the Boer War, through World War I, World War II, all the theatres of war. And back then, you read up on the history, some bad things happened. That's war. And Sam and his mates went and fought for our freedom to disagree. They fought for our right to have an opinion. They fought for our kids' right to enjoy a good life. I'm so gutted that we treat our veterans in the way we treat them. So listen to Peter Credlin tonight. She was so good. She was spot on. Out of all the presenters, she was sensational. So, Sam, totally agree with you, mate. That's my opinion. Well done, mate. I respect your service. I respect what you and your mates went through. I appreciate it. And as should all Australians. There are going to be those bastards like David Shoebridge who will try and tear you down, mate. Ignore them. There's far more of us than that bastard or our that minister in Victoria to change male behaviour. I don't know if you've seen him, and he's walking under a LGBTQIA pathway saying how much love he's got for their community. He never talks about the veterans. He never talks about the alpha males. He's a fucking prick too. So just needed to share that. So it's been pretty in-depth, but I do want to share one last thing with you all. I think it's a good thing to finish off with on this day of I just wanted to get that thing from Sam. I thought that was really powerful. I want to get one last thing in. I hope I've got it in. I do. This is why I had them all on the tab, so I didn't have to follow through on the tabs here. Have I got it? Any report? It doesn't put them in the order. This is why I was trying to put the tabs out. Oh, how's this pick? Patrick Dorman. So we've arrested Ben Roberts-Smith. And a lot of people like me, they now label far right because we support One Nation. This is what the Labor MPs think of us. Age of 41, father, 2 kids, never had a real job in his life. One Nation allies are rats and rejects. Labor are experts in insulting people. They've learnt from the best Albany. That's what they think of what is it now? A third of the Australian population that's behind One Nation? Rats and rejects. Fuck. Suppose it takes one to know one, doesn't it? These 3 young men all got hung because they protested their government. That's what we're fighting. This lady got hung. I'm not too sure we can turn a blind eye. Where is it? Okay. I'll just go one more. I just got to share, just like I had to share Ben's thing, I want to share this one. Sorry, guys, if you can bear with me. At One Nations for tomorrow. I have Senator Roberts. I thought this thing's beautiful. Certainly had an impact on me. If I can find it. Damn it. There, here we go. Just bear with me while I read this out. Have I got you up there? Yes, I do. This was not written by me, but it touched me deeply. Sunday is coming. This is about Christ and his sacrifice. It's a great way to finish off what I've been talking about. He received 39 stripes because 40 was known to kill a man. They wanted him alive. They held handfuls of his beard and hair and pulled it out by the roots. They wanted him alive. They kicked, punched, and spat on him for hours until there wasn't a single spot on his body not covered in blood. They wanted him alive. They shoved a crown of thorns down on his head so harshly it stuck in his skin. They wanted him alive. After hours of being beaten, mocked, whipped, flogged, and tortured, they made him walk with a cross. They made him carry it, a rough piece of wood with splinters digging into flesh wounds. They wanted him alive. They wanted him to feel every ounce of pain they could bring. He had to feel it in order to heal us. Crucifixion was historically one of the cruelest, most tortured deaths a human could face. Hours upon hours of torture. Torture most of us cannot mentally think of because the cruelty isn't normal. It isn't something our minds can comprehend. We celebrate Easter with pastel colours, happy children hunting eggs and chocolate. Truth is, there was absolutely nothing happy about the day Jesus died. It was cruel, bloody, and nasty. He could have stopped all of it. He could have called every angel in heaven to demolish every person standing and shouting, "Crucify him." He didn't. He knew in order to have a Sunday, you have to have a Friday. I'm going to read that again. He knew in order to have a Sunday, you have to have a Friday. That applies to us all. That's powerful. He knew in order to have joy, you have to carry your cross. He felt everything that day. He felt how your heart broke wide open when you had to watch your baby die. He felt how heavy your life was when you're staring down the barrel of a gun, wondering if the man you called husband was going to shoot you. He carried the weight of the burden you have felt since your spouse died, and life just doesn't seem right since. On that cross, he held the rapist and murderers, the sinner and the saint. He leveled every playing field and said, all of you are worth it. He knew he had to carry the cross. He never promised the cross you carry in this life would not be heavy. His wasn't. His promise is that Sunday is coming. No matter how heavy Friday is, financially, emotionally, mentally, or physically, Friday is heavy. That cross is weighing you down and you are about to crumble under its weight. His promise was simply this: he won't make you carry it alone. What kind of king would step down from his throne for this? Jesus of Nazareth, the Son of God, did for you. He did every bit of it for you and me. Oh, yes, it is heavy. So heavy sometimes you don't think you can take one more step. But look up, because Sunday is coming. Very powerful. I love that. I love that. I'm going to keep it. Get through Friday because Sunday is coming. When life's beating you down. I hope Ben Roberts-Smith in his jail cell tonight is thinking about that. I hope every one of you out there that have had a hard time, cost of living, fuel prices. I hope everyone is having a struggle with life, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a business owner that's had his business torn down, whether you're a person who doesn't see much hope for our country or its future. We're going through Friday. But Sunday is coming. Sunday is coming. And we have to carry that cross until Sunday gets here. It'll get here. So all of us, I've had those cross to bear more than I would like. I've got no doubt that many of you watch me have that cross to bear. Sunday is coming. And I hope One Nation is going to deliver that Sunday in such a powerful way. And tomorrow at 4:00, I'll be discussing that Sunday with Senator Malcolm Roberts. Hopefully you can join me. That's enough from me for one night. So great note to finish on. God bless you. God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless. Where is he? There he is. Always at my feet. Such a loyal fella, aren't you? God bless that flag. God bless our country. And let's make sure with the good people we have in this country that we go carry that cross that we've been carrying on Friday and we get to bloody Sunday to make that flag mean something again. Anyway, that's enough from me. See you all hopefully tomorrow, 4 o'clock. If not, we'll see you another time.